So we hear about this all the time, climate change, but this is all from scientists and researchers. We don't really hear from the people on the ground, And I figured, okay, so where is it going to hit the worst? Well, probably alongside the equator, being, the hottest line, let's say, and maybe the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle. So I needed some red line or red thread to follow, and I ended up following these three circles. And I met so many very exciting people with amazing tales to tell.
That is the first person to travel to every country in the world twice. My friend and today's guest, Gunnar Garfors, who was talking about his new book, which took 6 years to write, partly because he personally traveled to every single country along the equator and the polar circle, along with Antarctica, to discover how climate change is affecting the everyday lives of ordinary people by documenting first-hand accounts from locals on the ground. The book is only out in Norwegian right now, but rough translation is Between the Lines on Life and Death Along the Equator and the Polar Circles. It's getting rave reviews here in Norway, so hopefully an English version comes out soon. And this is the travelogue as well. It's not just a book about climate change. You're going to hear about his adventures through these places, including some amazing tales of his own.
We found a shabby hotel not too far from the port. We go in there and then we discover in the bathroom, and there's no running water, but there's a big, 20-gallon barrel with water and with a cup in it that we can use to shower, if you like. And behind this, then we discover 200 cockroaches.
You'll also hear Gunnar's curated list of the top 5 countries along the polar circle and equator that he recommends you visit and why, stories from his recent trip to Syria, and much more. It's all happening in today's show right now. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for being here, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. Actually, a lot of travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. As I mentioned at the top, Gunnar Garfors is here. You can check him out at garfors.com. That's Garfors. I love chatting with him about travel, and luckily we got to record this one in person because he is Norwegian. I am a fellow Norwegian. I can say that now because I'm a citizen here. We did it here in my loft studio, and that always adds a fun dynamic to the show. I do want to mention also that if you stick around on the back end, I'll leave you with a quote to wrap this up that I think is apropos. And also, I want to give a shout out to a listener, which shows the sweetness of this listening community that I love so much. Yes, I'm talking about you. By the way, get in touch anytime if you want to say hello. Jason at ZeroToTravel.com is my email. You can also sign up for our newsletter at ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter to stay in touch over there. Okay, here's my conversation with Gunnar Garfors. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Gunnar Garfors, welcome back to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
Thank you.
In person. High five.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Calling this the Loft Sessions. You're the first one. So.
Oh, really? Well, I was not told about this in advance, but I'm easily I'm easily fooled. Let's say.
All right, this is going to be a fun one, man. I mean, the fact that I get to talk travel with you, like even not on the podcast, is such a treat because you might be the most traveled person in the world.
Well, it all depends on how you measure it, really. I mean, and some people, they're counting spots, but you tend to call that tick box traveling, because it's all about having been there. Even you cross the middle of a river to sort of enter another region.
You put your toe like on the sand,
yeah.
and
then you just bugger off. So you've been there maybe 1 minute or even just a matter of seconds, but you've been there. I haven't been there, but at least when I travel properly. So it really depends on how you measure things. Really, yeah.
I mean, here's an example. My kids were looking at the Guinness Book of World Records that we have. I don't remember we got, and we're flipping through, and then all of a sudden I see your picture there.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
Just like, there he is again.
Yeah, well, we've done some crazy things, throughout the history. So, including some travel records.
I love it, man. We have some great episodes with you in the catalog that we'll link up to. If you're listening to this and you enjoy this one, which I know you will, adjusting a little level here as we get going in the home studio. Okay. Let people know what we're going to talk about today and what you just did with this new book and what it's called. And it's not available in English yet, but this is...
Not yet.
I haven't seen you much lately because you've been working on this for...
2 years? Well, really, for almost 6 years, because I started before the pandemic. And the book is about the countries on the equator and alongside the polar circles, the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle. So it's 21 countries plus Antarctica. So the last 2 years, I've hardly been in Norway at all. But I started this in 2019. I even got some, funding from the Norwegian Author Association and all the rest of it. Yeah. Then I had to postpone everything because of the bloody pandemic. And I had to write some books about Norway instead in the meantime. So
Darn.
Yeah, I know. But
had to travel around one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
It's awful.
We have those books, by the way. I got one over there, and there's
fantastic.
one downstairs.
Nice one. Yeah.
So that one, Bortover, was...
Bortom allfarväg, which means beyond the beaten path.
Yeah, which is what we're going to do today.
Oh, indeed. So, but yeah, it's taken a long time. And since I started on this project in 2019, it's been in the back of my head, even when I've been working on other books. So, the seventh book of mine has been the hardest, let's say.
Dude, I really admire your dedication to the craft and travel because... when you go to do a book like this, you've already been to every country in the world twice, and now you're going back to all of these countries. Along these lines, you went to all of them personally.
I did indeed.
To write this book.
Yeah, because, this time it was a different viewpoint. I was looking into different matter. I'm looking at climate change, actually, and how that affects people on the ground, if it affects them at all. Because now we see in the news every single day, every week, there's another report kind of hitting the other one on the head and saying it's going to be a disaster, and then the next week it's going to be even worse, and so on and so forth. So we hear about this all the time, climate change, but this is all from scientists and researchers. It's not, we don't really hear from the people on the ground, And I figured, okay, so where is it going to hit worst? Well, probably alongside the equator, being, the hottest line, let's say, and maybe the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle. So I needed some red line or red thread to follow, and I ended up following these three circles, and I met so many very exciting people with amazing tales to tell. So, but it's not only about the climate change. It's a travel book, a traditional one as such. I meet so many people again, and there's a lot of logistical challenges. There's stunning nature. You run into fights and issues and problems, and you encounter happy people or sad people or mad people, or you touch war zones. You go into refugee camps. I mean, there's so much that you encounter on these trips. So it's been an amazing experience to actually do.
Wow. And to sort of get the stories on the ground beyond the media stuff, right? Like you see the stats on climate change and things like that, but doesn't really bring to life, the farmer in whatever country that's, struggling with it on the ground. And so, yeah, we're going to do like a fun list today where you pull out, I should say, 5 of your favorite countries on these lines. We're going to stick to the Arctic Circle and the equator, because the Antarctic Circle, we already know there's only one country there. Everybody can guess what that's.
Yeah, it's not even a country. It's a continent. It's Antarctica.
And a continent. Yeah,
and most of it only runs through the sea. So 85% of the circle, the Antarctic Circle, is above the ocean. So, and the rest of it is above snow and ice and some mountains and everything. But and it's quite inaccessible. You can get there on a cruise from Ushuaia in Argentina, or you can fly in from Chile. And a lot of people do this, and by all means, the penguins, the wilderness. It is truly amazing. But nobody lives there. It's the only continent in the world where no one lives, actually. So that's definitely worth visiting. But let's leave it out for now.
Yeah, okay. We're going to have fun with that. But also, along the way, I do want to hear some of these stories that you've been able to kind of collect through your travels. And I just want to give you props because I think people don't understand that, you don't get some crazy budget for a book like this. You've been to all these places twice. You're the first person to travel to every country in the world twice. You could have I wouldn't even call that phoning it in because you've already done it, but you could have taken the experience you had before and kind of done some research online and pieced something together. Instead, you went out and went to all these places again and looked at them through this lens. So I just think that's incredible, man. And your books are great. By the way, we should mention before we dive into the list and all of this, you do have some books available in English. So let people know where they can follow you and those books. And
yeah, certainly. The probably easiest place to follow me is on Instagram, of all places. I'm Garfors, my last name, Gunnar Garfors there. And there you find links to websites and books and whatnot. But yeah, the first book I wrote came out 11 years ago. That's called How I Ran Out of Countries. So it's a chapter on every country in the world, all 198 of them. So that took some time writing.
Okay.
So that's available.
You don't do anything small, do you?
Well, I did these books about Norway, only one country. So that's quite... and I even did, I don't know if you know this, but I've even done a cookbook.
Yes.
Of course, you know me, and I'm a terrible chef, so I only did the writing for this one. So I did this together with a fantastic photographer, Håkon Hoseth, and the sushi world champion, Vladimir Pak. So obviously, he was the one doing all the recipes, and I was only doing the writing. But because when I tell people I've written a cookbook, they're saying, "You? What? Why?" and I understand the question, let's say.
Yeah. And elsewhere, that's also a book available.
Yeah, elsewhere it's also available in English. That is actually in Norwegian. It's called Nowhere, but my agent wanted or decided and translated.
You can't have a travel book about nowhere.
No, exactly.
It's like Seinfeld. You can't have a show about nothing.
Yeah. Well, you can in Norwegian. Yeah. And it's also out in Hungarian. In Hungarian, it's called Where Only Birds Go. So, a much more poetic title, I would say. But it's the same book. But that's elsewhere in English. It's available on a small publisher in Wales, of all places, called the Broken Sleep Books. And the reason for the name is that the CEO of this publisher, he's insomnia.
Okay, really?
So very much broken sleep.
Okay.
He tells me he hasn't properly slept for 20 years. So poor guy. But but if you Google any of these, either How I Ran Out of Countries or elsewhere, and maybe add my name Garfors, you will find those books.
Okay. Before we dive in, one more thing, because you mentioned the cooking, and you are here at the time of this recording. It's Friday. I said, well, let's come over, record a podcast. We're going to have some fun. Your soon-to-be wife is going to join us. She's an American, and we're going to have dinner with you guys. And it's Friday, and I wanted you to help me solve one of the greatest mysteries in the universe. This mystery is perhaps greater than the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster. It is perhaps greater than the mystery of human consciousness, even.
Bloody hell.
Why do Norwegians have something called Taco Friday, where you eat boxed taco?
That's a very, very good question. At least we should stick with alliteration and have a Taco Tuesday or a Taco Thursday.
Explain what it is first, and then I'm warning you now that this is sort of a Taco Friday situation. Although fantastic. I'm going to make some good vegetarian burritos.
Brilliant!
As
Jackie,
well, Jackie,
she's actually
who's
already
been on the pod.
My wife, she has as well, and so she's a vegetarian. So. She stays away from any living creature, at least when it comes to eating it. She loves animals, alive animals, but not dead ones.
Yeah.
That's much appreciated. We're really looking forward to that. But
the rest of the meal will be the boxed taco with the packet of spice. I'm just warning you.
Well, fantastic, yeah. But that's where it comes
tradition.
From. It is tradition, and it's been around for maybe 15, 20 years in Norway. And you get these boxes in the grocery shop, and everything is included. You have the taco shells, vegetables, you have the seasoning, you have the sauce. Well, you have to buy the minced meat and, of course, the vegetables and everything. You have to buy those separately. And then you just chop it up. You put them in different bowls and put them on the table, and people fill their tacos
It's
with
Norway.
whatever.
I mean, you can't even get good Mexican food here.
I know. And Jackie's saying the same thing. She's saying, but
just
why?
Such a weird.
And I mean, you guys being American and all, bordering Texas, I'm bordering Mexico, and it's like, why? But at least make it proper.
Yeah.
So this is a very much watered out version of a proper taco.
Yeah.
But Norwegians, I guess, we still love it. We're not
funny,
spoiled when it comes to amazing food. Let's say.
I just wanted to share that fun cultural fact with everybody. Now everybody can envision us eating our box taco later. I've got these mashed up sweet potatoes. I'm going to be cooking them with some kidney beans and garlic and onions. We'll see if this recipe turns out. I don't know. I'm going to try my best. You had a pretty romantic proposal to Jackie as well. Can you share what you did? Because this is quite gutsy.
Because we're already married, actually. She is my wife. But,
are you married now?
Oh, we're married. We are married.
Wait, you didn't tell.
I didn't tell you.
No.
Well, I'm telling you now.
Wow. Okay.
We did a
Congratulations.
thank you. No, we did a very low-key wedding in Copenhagen because when you're Norwegian, if you're marrying a foreigner and she's American, then the easiest place to get married is Copenhagen. There's not a lot of red tape or bureaucracy or anything. Whereas in Norway, it's hell. So there's so much paper and it takes weeks and months to get everything together. In Copenhagen, you just have to take a photograph.
It's like the European Vegas.
It is, yeah. Minus the gambling and
and the Elvis costumes.
Yeah. So and the Elvises and the impersonators and all the rest of it. So we did it there, only with her best friend and
Cool.
my brother and a couple of other people. So we're having the wedding, and where you and your wife are invited.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
obviously
That's what I was thinking. You're not married yet, but
no. So we're having the wedding party, which is a proper big
got
party.
it.
So
huge congrats.
Well, thank you. So the bonus for you is that you don't have to sit through the boring ceremony. You're only there for the party. So it's brilliant.
The bummer for you is you have to be married to an American.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding. That's nothing against Jackie. I'm making fun of Americans in general. I think you and my wife can bond about what's it like with dealing with these Americans and all their Americanness.
Well, when I met Jackie for the first time and we really hit it off, I told her, this is great. I love you, but I really was never going to go out with an American. And she says, neither was I. And I said, okay, well, one of us had to kind of take a bite of the sour apple,
That's awesome.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's great, man. But the proposal, what you did.
Yes, that happened in my last book. Came out 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, actually. And that was Beyond the Beaten Track, about the eastern part of Norway. One of the places we're covering is the hometown or home village of your wife as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that's part of the book.
Don't let the secret out.
Don't let the secret out. No, I know that's the biggest and best place to visit, obviously. But yeah, the book is dedicated to Jackie, and it doesn't really say that. It's that Jackie, she would get married. And she didn't know this, but when the book was delivered on my doorstep, I got 50 copies. And I said, okay, this first one is for you. And she opened it up. And obviously, she doesn't understand Norwegian. So she said, I can see Jackie here, but what does it mean? So I had to translate the bloody proposal, But then, well, she smiled and laughed and cried, hopefully happy tears. And
I mean, you put it in a print edition that was published. That's pretty romantic, man. It's pretty awesome. Then, of course, you're hoping she says yes because it's going to be in print like that forever.
I was hoping she was going to say yes, but imagine my publisher. They were skeptical. We're going to have to send thousands and thousands of copies back if she says no.
Right. Yeah. They're like, this better work.
Yeah, this better work. And it did.
That's great, yeah. And the fact you had to translate it, that makes sense because you guys are like maybe one of the most traveled couples in the world. So,
we're both
on
easily,
some level, you should probably be translating.
Yeah, we're
something,
both
for
easily
the-
travel, let's say.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's hardcore traveler. She's a really hardcore traveler. She was voted the most intrepid traveler in the world in 2022. I mean, she hitchhiked alone in Iraq. She's been around Yemen. She was the first female traveler to go to Afghanistan after the Taliban took over.
which we did our episode about.
Yeah.
Which
So
we'll link up to that.
absolutely. So no, she's well worth talking to when it comes to travel. So and she's more hardcore than me. So I would rather let's find a fast train or let's fly somewhere. And I hate flying. Let's take the cargo ship. But that's going to take a week. Oh, so
She's breaking you down. That's great. Well, we're going to have her back on the show, so everybody can be on the lookout for that. All right. Should we get into this?
Oh, absolutely. Let us.
First, give us a breakdown of how many countries are along each of these lines, and then we can kind of dive in.
Yeah, let's do that. And the Arctic Circle, there are 8 countries, and let's start in your neck of the woods, the United States. Alaska is on the circle. Then if you go eastwards, you have Canada, you have Greenland, which for now belongs to Denmark, unless
we don't need to get into
do
that
something nasty and break every rule there is. Then we continue to Iceland, then Norway, where we are now, continuing eastwards to Sweden, Finland, and the biggest country in the world, Russia. So there's 8 countries on the Arctic Circle. Then on the equator, if we then start in America again, we start with Ecuador, continue to Colombia, Brazil. Then we cross the Atlantic, and we have São Tomé and Príncipe. It's a small island nation on the west coast of Africa, or off the west coast of Africa. Then we get on to the mainland of Africa. We have Congo. Then we have DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo. So Congo number 2.
That's where you took the cargo ship you just referred to.
Which took a bit too long, let's say. It was a great trip, especially in retrospect. But not even Jackie would like to do it again, let's say. So that was tough. And then we head eastwards again, and we get to Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, which is having its issues with terrorist Al-Shabaab, the terrorist group in parts of the country, including on the equatorial part. So that was a bit sketchy. Continue to Asia and the Maldives, which a lot of people know from honeymoons, etc., etc. Then to Indonesia, the second country in Asia, and then the only country in Oceania, in the middle of the Pacific, which is Kiribati. It's a tiny island country with.
Wow. What a diverse
beautiful
mix of nations.
It is indeed, yeah. And you encounter, when you're looking at this from a climate change point of view, you encounter so many different issues and problems and challenges and all the rest of it, and different kind of people, fishermen, farmers. You have people, losing everything from flooding. You have more rain than usual. You have less rain than usual. You have a lot more rain, but in some places, but it comes all at the same time. So if you spread it throughout the year, it's when it rains, it's too wet, and the rest of the year it's too dry to be able to grow anything. So it has it's devastating impacts on a lot of countries.
Okay.
So it's not only a fun book, let's say.
No,
but it's,
no, I get that. I mean, it's.
But the people you meet, they really make up for it. There's so many fantastic stories and so many incredible people out there. Families, huge families. You have couples, you have kids, you have teenagers, you have old people, you have everything.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to start? Should we start in the Arctic Circle? Take a couple countries.
Sure.
From
Yeah.
there?
Let's do that. Yeah, for sure. Let's not do Norway then, shall we?
Okay. Yeah. We can. We're here. We can. Although you have written 3 books about Norway and you are Norwegian.
Well, that's true. So.
I don't know. It's your call.
Let's actually take another Nordic country to start with. Let's do Finland. A lot of people
Haven't been.
You haven't been?
No.
Oh, it's a neighboring country of Norway.
I know.
Jason,
I'm going to go.
What's
It's
happening?
100%.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. I haven't been. Yeah.
No, it's a disaster. No, Finland. It's and Jackie. She's half Finnish actually.
Oh, is she? Okay.
So I
yeah.
typically say she's Finnish, Irish, American, Sudanese, Norwegian. I mean, she lived in Sudan, as you've touched on a previous podcast for 10 years. So anyway, but so Finland is very exciting. They have we like them in many ways, but we also don't like them in other ways because they've stolen Santa Claus's hometown from Norway. So a lot of people travel here to a town called Rovaniemi on the Arctic Circle, in the middle of the deep forest of Finland, and I think you have 24 airlines flying here from all around the world every winter. Because people want to see Santa Claus, they want to visit the Santa Claus workshop, they want to live with Santa in the Santa village, go to the post office of Santa Claus, and so on and so forth. So they've made this into a huge industry, and I mean,
is it like a living theme park in a way?
It is, and it's open all year round. But you really should go here in the winter when you have the snow, and you can go dog sledging or you go sledding behind a reindeer and go skiing and all these other things. So it's obviously part of the Arctic. I mean, you have the deep forests. It's you have the mountains. It is really a beautiful place. You have 200,000 reindeer in Finland. A lot of ice fishing on the rivers, on the lakes. They call it the lake, or most of us in Europe call it the country of the 1,000 lakes. But if you count them, I think there are actually 880,000 lakes in Finland. So there are lakes everywhere. So it's a great opportunity for ice fishing or diving in the summer. The Finnish, they're crazy, so they go in their saunas, they go swimming in the winter in minus 40, minus 50 degrees. It is a very exciting country. Also, most people would probably go to Helsinki, the capital, which is really it's a beautiful place on the sea, not too far from Russia, and you have a lot of brilliant restaurants. Nightlife is great. They're really famous for their design. The problem, though, some people would say that the Finnish are not very talkative. So, and you have this joke that you have to get them drunk in order to get them talking. And I think there is some truth to that, although it's kind of loosening up a little bit with younger generations, okay. I would say.
Yeah. So, in that way, some of the stories or some of the people you met along the way, how did you get them to open up?
No, well, I brought a bottle of vodka with me. So
there you go.
So that was the only way to do it. No, I mean, you have to take it slowly, and, you have to, usually if you let them know in advance. So in Finland, the trick there is to actually call ahead or to email them ahead and set up an appointment. Then they will think about it for a couple of weeks or 3 or 4, and they say, okay, then, yeah, let's meet. And then, so that's a good way to do it. But, to go out on town, and just hope to be able to speak to someone that can be quite hard.
Okay,
because they're hard to get to talk.
Yeah, did you find that and throughout making this book, and in some places it was better to kind of set things up in advance, and others it was easier to just kind of do it on the fly?
Yeah, it's a big difference, and especially in Norway, it's a bit the same. It's we're a bit shy here, the same as in Finland. Whereas in other countries, I mean, Alaska, for instance, in Canada, people are more open. Iceland as well, people are easier to get in touch with. Maybe they're more curious. Maybe they're more used to tourists. I'm not quite sure the reason for it, but it's a clear tendency.
Do you feel more? I wouldn't call you shy, but maybe you are in the Norwegian way. Are you? I don't know. When you come into Norway, and now you've been here for a little bit, versus when you're off in another country, does it change sort of your?
I think I think I used to be very shy. I mean, I grew up in a small village on the Norwegian west coast, and then I traveled. I was 1 year in the USA as an exchange student. I studied for 3 years, and then I traveled a lot since then. And so I think that's kind of opened my eyes and made me realize that being shy is fine and there's nothing wrong about it, but you miss out on so much fun. There's so many great people that that you really want to get in touch with. So hopefully I've tried to get rid of most of the shyness. There's still some left, but
of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be hard to put yourself out there in that way, But when you're outside of your home culture, I feel like something, even if you're outside your hometown, there's something about that with travel that you feel like you can almost be anybody in some ways.
Oh, it is, because then it's so, if you know that nobody knows you, you can be anybody.
Yeah,
and
there's a freedom that comes with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also a responsibility, I would say.
Yeah, it's easy.
You don't want to pretend you're.
No, it's easy. It's a friend of mine actually. We were out in town, and he we met some girls, and he was very interested in one of them, and he was working with IT. He was some programming or whatever. That wasn't, he didn't think that was very interesting. So the girl asked him what he was doing, and said, "I'm a fighter pilot." And it turned out that she...
Sounds like a bad movie.
I know. And it turned out that she, her dad was a fighter pilot. So she knew everything. So she started asking all these questions. And, he was blagging. And it was after 5 minutes, she was just taking the piss because she knew that this guy is definitely not a fighter pilot. So, be careful you try to be,
That's hilarious. That is like a scene out of a movie. You say the one thing. Yeah. And fighter pilot, of all things, you had to go there.
I know. You could have just picked, like a commercial pilot or whatever. To be fair, I think he had a few beers, let's say.
Oh, that's so funny. All right. Well, what was the what was the story you got, I should say, related to climate change in Finland?
What I also spoke to various people from museums. I spoke to some researchers. I spoke to reindeer herders, and what they're saying, the climate is getting more unpredictable. It's getting drier, so they have more forest fires. This is also affecting the number of plants or species and trees and all sorts, which is again affecting the bird life, and their ability to find food. I was also told that the biggest fear up in Rovaniemi on the Arctic Circle is the fear of ticks. These little insects, because they are coming further and further north every year as it's getting warmer. And, getting...
Do they have Lyme's disease there and some of the tick-related...
They do. Well, I'm not sure in Finland, but they do in Sweden and Norway, so I assume they do in Finland as well. And, of course, there's a lot of articles about this in the Nordics, so they know this is a possibility. So they say, well, we are not afraid of bears or wolves or, moose, but those little ticks, we don't know what they do, and, we can't see them. So that seemed to be one of the biggest fears for them. Another thing is the ice fishing I said earlier. For you and me, just going out and making a hole and using a small fishing rod or something, that's totally fine. But for those that live from fishing, they need the big gear, machinery to take up the fishing nets with. And now when it's getting warmer, the ice is not as strong. They can't put all this heavy machinery out on the ice, and so that's affecting their livelihood as well. Yeah. And then they're saying that the reindeer, because it's getting warmer, and the reindeer, they have their fur. It's apparently the most insulating fur in the animal kingdom. It's got a pocket of air inside each piece of hair. And this can insulate down to minus 50 degrees without any issue. If it gets even colder, then they have to start walking around, to keep the heat going. But now with warmer temperatures, they get too hot, but they're not stupid. So then they realized that we get a bit of a breeze. If we go a bit higher up in the woods, and so they're looking for kind of small hills or whatever. But what they're figuring out, these reindeer, is that the best small hills are the roads, because they've been built up a tiny bit, and there you get a lot more breeze.
Okay.
Problem is, of course, there are loads of cars on the roads,
right.
So a lot of reindeer are now being killed by cars. Since they're sort of chilling and trying to avoid the hot, the more and more hot temperatures.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That really brings it to life for me. That one in particular, it illustrates that we are all connected. right? I mean, you can't separate. Look at this species. This is all one working organism. So.
No, absolutely. So I mean, you look at the entire system and everything, fits together one way or another.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Where else do you want to go in the?
Yeah, I was gonna go east and go to Russia, but for a number of reasons, Russia is probably not the country we'd like to visit right now.
Hard for people to travel there.
Well, that's true as well, and also after having invaded Ukraine and all the rest of it, it's you don't really want to support Russia's economy. But if you look at the country, if you look away from the politics, it is a truly amazing country. I mean, it's the biggest country in the world, and the diversity in terms of scenery and so on is fantastic. So let's instead of going to the biggest country, let's go to the second biggest country in the world, Canada. And I traveled over from Alaska, hitchhiked from Anchorage to the border. I think I needed 7 or 8 cars to get me there, and then it turned out you guys, Americans, you're really friendly when it comes to hitchhiking. I managed to go there in one day, and then I enter Canada, and not a single person wants to pick me up. And I was hitchhiking for 2 days, and there was nothing.
Wow.
So I'm not sure, but the Canadians have something to learn from you guys here for sure. I don't think this is climate related,
no.
but so I traveled into Dawson City, well known for the Klondike, the Gold Rush from this period over 100 years ago, all the gold diggers and all the rest of it, and the traditional names of shops and hotels and offices. These wooden square signs with big painted letters on them above the entrance. This is also Dawson City in a nutshell.
Okay.
You have them everywhere, and it's you really feel like going back into a country in West, or a West, what do you call it?
A Wild West or
Wild West film or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
So and here you have the huge river running through it, and they're saying that it's raining, it's snowing more, and much more snow than before, and then you have the wild rain in the spring, so that the river is growing much bigger than it has ever been, or almost ever been before. So this is polluting wells, it's polluting, you're getting polluted water into the groundwater, and it's taking away a lot of the plants and trees and everything. So it's kind of creating havoc along the river. I also spoke to it's a German couple, actually. They've lived outside Dawson for I think 14 years now, and they said they were just sitting on their porch in a big timber house, and they were hearing this fox, screaming.
Yeah.
And for 4 hours.
Wow.
And I said, so what's happening? But of course, the animals, they pick up stuff that we don't necessarily do. So after 4 hours, the fox stopped screaming, and then the entire side of the entire hill, I mean, many square miles of land just moved itself, by several hundred meters.
4 hours later?
After 4 hours. The moment the fox stopped screaming, then it started to move. So,
wow.
And you had an entire forest on here. You had huge single trees. You had farmland and everything. But everything just moved.
Wow.
And because of too much water, probably, or rain for a long period of time. And of course, this was on a relatively steep hill as well. But people were using this as farmland. They were cutting down the timber and everything. So suddenly you have a situation where the entire hillside has moved. And then you have the problems. So what about ownership of this land? Because the top layer has moved, so the farmer who owned a big forest, suddenly only half the forest is left. Because it kind of slid out of his property. So suddenly now we have lawyers looking at this, how are we going to figure this out? And it's just wild how things are affecting us in small or big ways.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. That's it's great that the term climate change has become the go-to term, whereas before it was more like people would talk about global warming, and that's a good example of, you can say, well, it's snowing so much here. It's not getting warmer; it's getting colder. People just these words matter.
Yeah,
So I think
it does.
climate change it's good that that's been adapted sort of as the term that's being used, as opposed to almost had to go through a rebrand when people were saying global warming, because it's not always about too warm.
No, that's very true. I remember actually I was in for a conference in Las Vegas around 14, 15 years ago. And one of my colleagues, a Norwegian guy, he was there and just standing outside his hotel. And this American guy, like a big chap, comes over and says, where are you from? I'm from Norway. Oh, do you guys have global warming over there as well? The sort of, dude, it's global, yes.
Yeah.
The
word global is in the...
yeah, it kind of says it all. But so Canada, they're really struggling with big earth slides or avalanches of the dirt, if you like. It's a big problem, especially on the west side of Canada. Then I traveled across the country, and I mean, it's huge. And it's got even more lakes than Finland, and many more. I think over 2 million lakes in Canada. It's insane. And then I go to Hudson Bay, and there's a small town there called Nauyat. It's almost on the Arctic Circle. And then I talk to Inuits or Eskimos. Some of them prefer to be called Inuits. Some of them prefer to be called Eskimos. So you really have to ask them what they prefer to be called. And they're telling me, that because of it's getting warmer, and because it's getting warmer, the ice is not as thick anymore. It was up to 6 or even 9 meters thick on the ocean before. Now it's typically only a meter or a meter and a half. It lasts much. It doesn't. It's not there for as much of the year as it used to be, and this affects the polar bears, because the polar bears, they're when they're going to find something to eat, they're going to kill a seal or walrus or whatever they eat. They go out on the ice. But now they can't really get out on the ice as much as before, because it's too thin for these huge polar bears. So as a consequence, they're becoming skinnier. You can really tell they're not eating as much as they need. They're also going into the villages and the towns to find food. So now it's sort of, you have to carry a gun around with you just in case a polar bear might attack you. So native populations are seeing big changes here. Also, the whaling they use. So not a lot of people know this, but because Norway and Japan and Iceland are typically seen as the nasty countries of the world when it comes to whaling, but native Inuits in both Alaska and in Canada are also doing whaling. But that's kind of that's okay. That's seen as okay, because it's part of their culture and it has been for many years. Whereas if Norwegians or Japanese or Icelandic do it, then it's kind of frowned upon in a totally different manner. But we see that in around Hudson Bay, getting whales, it's less and less frequent, and this gives them big problems in terms of getting food to their families, because that's a very important part of their diet to get this 1 or 2 whale every year.
Yeah. These stories are the things that are, to me, one of the critical parts of making change, I should say, positive change. Like, this is the challenge, I think, or one of the big challenges. I want to get your thoughts on this. The climate change news is often the news that's easy to avoid, right? It's like, I don't want to read this. It's depressing. I don't want to hear this. It's, and so it can be very difficult to get the public excited about something that seems so big and so overwhelming and so sort of long-term big picture, and also so sad. It's just human nature, I feel. It can be like, oh, this is like a, let me just play Sudoku or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I'm just wondering, like, when you were doing this book, and, what are your thoughts on that? And how did you kind of approach it in a way that you could make it accessible where people will want to
Now, one of the reasons I've written this book now is because, what you're mentioning, there's so much of it. We read about it almost every day. Climate change this, climate change that, and you sort of get tired of it, or you get scared of it, or it's just overwhelming, and you just feel very small, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I mean, I can recycle, but that's not really going to help much. So you kind of almost give up. And it's sort of, it's too complex. We can't really get our heads around it. So instead of actually doing something, and I mean, we should definitely recycle, but we should do much more than recycle. We need to step up our game. But then in our minds, it's just too much. It's too complex. So instead of doing anything, then okay, let's just pass it on to the next generation, kind of a thing. This is I can't deal with it. And even if I do something, then you just look at your neighbor and your let's say your richer neighbor who has 10 times as much money as me. Well, he or she doesn't do anything. So even if I do something, that it's not really going to help. And that neighbor looks to maybe someone else that's richer in a different country, says, and this person looks to another country and another country, and so it's sort of you're just pointing fingers, So I can help and I can do something, but doesn't really help anyway. So I don't know. This is a vicious circle. It seems like. Which is really sad, and it's really making everything a lot worse. So I don't know. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to let's say normal people or ordinary people underground and see how is this actually affecting people, instead of just saying okay, no, the temperature has increased by 5 degrees or 10 degrees, or the ocean level has increased by how many inches or centimeters or whatever. But okay, but what does that mean? And try to get some names here, and talk to a farmer or a fisherman and so on, and get their stories out.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that, and the stories to me really bring it to life in a totally different way. Well, let's head down to the equator now.
Yeah,
we still got 3 more countries.
Yeah, we do indeed. Yeah. So I was thinking,
I know it's tough to kind of weave these 2 topics together. We're talking like travel and all these cool things to see, and then also the reality of climate change, this is the world we're living in.
It is indeed, yes. So I've tried to combine this. As I said earlier, it's both a book on climate change, but it's equally much it's a travel book. About actually traveling along these circles and maybe enlightening yourself or educating yourself, and maybe passing on that knowledge to other people, so that we all can come together and actually do something. So if we start in America this time, or South America, I'd like to talk about Brazil. Most of the Amazon rainforest and the river is in Brazil. It's massive. It's huge. It's truly amazing to travel in the rainforest, whether it's on the river or walking through it, or whichever way you travel. But just seeing all these, I don't know. It's just wild, the number of colors. Or variants of green, it's not 50 shades of green. There's like 50,000 shades of green, and all the sounds in there, and all the animals, and all the flowers, and it's truly amazing. And then you're seeing that a lot of these trees, I mean, they're being chopped down in order to get the timber. Also a lot of trees are being chopped down in order to create or to make farms, to be able to plant crops and whatnot. And so we're seeing the Amazon is slowly, or not so slowly anymore, it's vanishing. And because it's so big, it's its own kind of ecosystem, or it certainly is, and it creates its own rain. But if it becomes too small, this is no longer going to happen. Because, it breathes CO2, it puts out oxygen, and this also creates humidity and rain. And, so you're creating this circle. So the rainforest kind of feeds itself with the much needed water. But it's also depending on water from the outside. I don't know, you're just seeing so many things affecting everything, affecting each other here. What you're also seeing is a lack of rain. The last 2 summers, 23 and 24, you've had less rain in the Amazon River than almost any time before, at least in recent memory. And people are losing their water. They're losing the rivers as a mode of transportation. There are not many roads in the Amazon. So in order to get to remote villages, to provide them with food, to provide them with healthcare and whatever, you are depending on the rivers. But now they're disappearing for parts of the year, which is taking away the ability to communicate, to the ability to interact, and it's taking away their produce and their the food for a lot of people. Also taking away their water. A lot of them have to drink from the Amazon or one of the side rivers, and suddenly there's no water left. It's gone from being a huge river to being a small stream, or not even that. So now they have to walk long distances to try to find ponds or whatever that's not polluted that they can actually drink from. So you're seeing lots of big issues in the Amazon rainforest.
Did you meet any climate change deniers on the road?
Well, not in the Amazon. And what I did there, and Jackie and I, we traveled together in the Amazon, and we went on the local ferries. And they travel from, the biggest city there is Manaus. There's several million people living there in the middle of the rainforest. And we take the local ferries downstream river. This is an amazing way of traveling. It's so that you have to bring your own hammock. And if you don't have one, you can buy one for $10 in the port. And then you hang, 3 inches from the next person. And you have hundreds or 200 people on each deck. And you have 3 to 6 decks with people, just sleeping there.
Is this the picture I got from you?
I think so, yeah.
Was that the one on the cargo ship? I can't remember.
I think this
might have been it, because I texted you one day, and then you're like, I'm not in Norway. And then you sent this picture, and there's like 100 hammocks with people like you're describing.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was just like, wow, that's just like, I always love that when I try to message you, because I never know when I'm going to get back.
Or where I am, or if I'm ever going to respond. But it is great, so this is, a trip like this takes typically 36 to 48 hours from one major city to another. So you really get to know people there on in the hammocks. There's a bar on the top deck, and you can get food at the bottom deck. But you're so close to people, so people are at night sleeping in their hammocks. At the day, they're sitting in them, they're talking, they're reading books, doing all these kind of things. And most people here, they're locals. They're traveling from one city to another, or they're leaving the ship or getting onto it from a small village in the middle with no road access, no nothing. So there's sort of a lifeline on the Amazon. And there's never been so little water in the main Amazon that you can't go up or down by boats, but it's more the smaller rivers that have disappeared, like I explained earlier. And here, you really get in touch with people, and whoever you talk to, they feel this they feel this so closely. They see this. How bad things are with regards to the climate and the changes. So there are not many climate skeptics, people skeptic to climate change in the Amazon, let's say.
Right. Okay. Wow.
It's a great way to see the rainforest, to see the Amazon, get from A to B, and I definitely recommend anyone to travel on the Amazon on one of these ferries. It's such a fantastic way to travel and also to get in touch with people.
Yeah.
It's an advantage to speak Portuguese, but I mean there's always going to be someone speaking English, being able to translate and get you involved.
Yeah, were there many foreigners doing it? Or?
We went on 2 ships like this, Jackie and me, and we didn't see any other foreigners on any of them. So we met a couple of foreigners in one of the towns along the way, but no. So this is the way the locals travel, and we as tourists we typically tend to travel the easiest way and fly, but then you lose out on so much by doing that.
Yeah, amazing. All right, we got 2 stops left on this ran
Yeah,
into?
I was thinking we should talk about São Tomé and Príncipe. It's, as I said earlier, it's off the west coast of Africa. It's a small island nation consisting of two main islands, São Tomé and the other one called Príncipe, naturally. The equator goes through a third island, a very small island called Rulas, at the very south of the country. And you have, a little over 100,000 people living here. It's a small country. It used to be a Portuguese colony, so they have amazing food. The infrastructure is decent. The roads are awful, actually, but except for the roads, it's okay. You have beautiful beaches. You have rainforest. You have amazing waterfalls. It's great for diving, scuba diving.
How much time did you spend there?
Well, altogether, I think it's now 3 weeks altogether. The last trip, maybe 10 days.
Okay, yeah. Is it tough to get to, or?
No, you can fly from Lisbon, the direct flight from Lisbon, and there are 3 cities on mainland Africa. So Accra in Ghana, from Douala in Cameroon, and also from Libreville in Gabon. Yeah, and actually, I think also from Luanda in Angola. So 3 or 4 cities you can fly to, from São Tomé. It's a very easy country to travel to. You get a visa on arrival, valid for 15 days. It's kind of Africa light, if you like. Great coconuts. You have a lot of pineapples, a lot of really tasty fruit, amazing seafood here. So what they're seeing is changes in the seasons, and they say, well, the rain season. There's no rain during rain season anymore.
Oh, wow.
So they've always been talking about, the rain season is coming and it's going to be so cold. I mean, it's not. It's sort of 25 degrees Celsius.
It's all relative,
yeah. But being Norwegian and they say, it's so cold, and they're wearing thick jackets, and we're walking around in shorts and t-shirts and whatever. But the big problem is the rain, especially in the northern part of the country.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a big country, but it's almost not there. So they're having big issues with a lack of water. Also, the fishermen are complaining. They have, a lot of small-scale fishermen. They have to travel further and further out because of the heating water temperature, which means that the fish go deeper. So they have to go out with a little boat, travel much further out to be able to get anything, and this is a big problem because before they got up very early in the morning, they went out, they got the fish, and were back in the port, just after midday, maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m., just in time to provide fish for families that were looking to make dinner. But now they're not back until maybe 5 or 6 at night, and that's too late to provide any dinner for people. So now people have to plan better. If they want fish, they have to buy it the day before. Not everybody has refrigerators and all the rest of it. So they're getting less fish, and it's harder to sell the fish that they're getting as well.
Wow. Okay.
So you're seeing all kinds of problems, and they seem to be similar in many places, and also totally different, obviously depending on who you're talking to.
How did you approach those conversations? Did you just go up to the docks and start talking with fishermen and open up that conversation?
It was just I typically go running when I'm out in a new place. It's a really good way of getting in touch with people, because they always say, this the Westerner, he's out running, and then it's so easy to get talking to people. So I ran through this fishing village and get talking to a number of fishermen there. We drove down to Rulas, the Equator island, and here we needed a ride across to the island, and then we get in touch with another other fishermen and so on. So usually the way I like to do my research is to travel there and see what happens. Sometimes there is someone, as I said earlier, especially in Finland, you have to make an appointment in advance, because maybe it's hard to get people talking, or also if you want to talk to someone particular, maybe an expert within a field, or someone with a particular job or something, just to be sure that you actually manage to get in touch with someone like that, you might have to make appointments. But I kind of like being impulsive, and I like to I like to see what happens and get those kind of stories that you would never get if you were going to plan everything in advance.
Yeah, it sounds like a great mix that you got, which is the sort of research-based, like appointment-based type of experts versus the people that are just living this day to day.
Yeah.
So, all right, where's the last stop?
Let's go to one of the two Congos, DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Yep.
And yeah, this is where Jack and me, we went on this barge. So we went to a town or a city called Mbandaka. MB, it starts with Mbandaka. And it's it's in the middle of the rainforest. It's the second biggest rainforest after the Amazon. And it's on the Congo. You can't really drive there. Well, you can, but the roads are awful. And if you're going to drive from another city, Kinshasa, the capital, or Kisangani, the second biggest city, the detours are just horrible. So nobody drives to Mbandaka. You can fly there, or you take barges or other kinds of boats. And it's over 1.1 million people living here. The biggest city on the equator in the world. And but it doesn't feel like a big city. So we went there and said, okay, well, we should stock up before we're going to go on this barge because, just to be sure we have food and whatnot. But there are some markets, obviously, but no shops. We found one shop, and that was the biggest grocery shop in town. Was the size of maybe a 7-Eleven, but the selection was, let's say, very, very limited.
Where do people?
No, people buy stuff at markets. They buy from their neighbors. They buy from each other, which is perfectly fine, and it works brilliantly. They buy directly from the fishermen and so on. But coming from the West, we're just going to go to the grocery shop. I say, that's not a good idea. And as I said earlier, Jackie, she's a vegetarian, which turned out to be a big problem on the barge. And we go and get a ticket. In order to pay a ticket, it was about $50 per person. It was a trip that would take 2 days, they said. And we got a cabin. There's 1 out of 12 cabins on board of this ship, which took 350 people. Most of them are staying outdoor on the open deck, sleeping under the stars. And when we're going to pay, $50, that's a lot of money. And it's a bunch of notes. Like several, it's so much money, and we need a bag to carry them. So we pay this to get the ticket, and of course they don't have anywhere to put it. There's too much money, and we're not the only passengers. The 348 others. So they just put it in a huge garbage bag, and every night they have to count the money in the 3 or 4 or 5 different garbage bags in order to it just takes too much. And of course there are no credit cards
because
or
of the
anything
exchange
like
rate. It's just
the value of the money is devaluated so much. So it's sort of in order to buy something small, you still need quite a bunch of notes. So it's
wow.
And we ask, so when is the boat going to go? We don't know. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Sunday. So we just have to keep and then we go on board, and we wait and we wait and we wait, and then they go, nah, it's not leaving today. So okay, well, let's go find a hotel. We find a shabby hotel not too far from the port, and we go in there, and then we discover in the bathroom, and there's no running water, but there's a big, let's say, a 20-gallon barrel with water, and with a cup in it that we can use to shower, if you like. And behind this, then we discover 200 cockroaches.
200?
Yeah, well, we didn't count, but,
but
quite a few.
A colony.
And we said, we really would prefer not to stay in a place that's infested with so many cockroaches. So we go and tell the owner, and there's a lot of cockroaches here. And he said, okay, let me have a look. And he just, okay, well, I'm gonna solve this. So he takes his sandal and just kills all the cockroaches, just knocks them over the head. And so of course then you have 200 cockroach corpses in the bathroom instead,
right?
Which isn't that much better, really. So no, let's actually try to find another hotel. So we go back to the hotel we stayed in.
That was even too much for Jackie.
Yeah. I probably freaked out more than she did, And so we go back to the other hotel where we had stayed a few nights, and we said, could we have a room for another night? Yeah, I'll just put you in the same room as you had. And then we said, well, actually, could you give us another room? Because there was a big rat running across the floor. And the receptionist says, are you sure that was not a cat? So Jackie's saying, well, it was a big rat, but it was not that bad, So I think we got upgraded and got a better room without cats or rats.
Wow,
so that was good.
That's hardcore.
And then finally we get on, and then we move on board the boat, and it turns out it's one more day delayed. But then we sleep on the boat in port because we're going to leave early in the morning, and then we go. We head south downriver, and after 20 minutes, the boat goes to shore again. And then ticket control. We're going to control everybody's tickets. But why? And this turns out to take 9 hours.
Really?
To control the tickets. And everybody has to leave the boat, and it's a big problem.
After 20 minutes.
After 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's not, there is no better system here. Could you not control this, No, this is, and apparently, a lot of people, we had a cabin, so we paid $50. Most people only pay $10 to stay on the deck. But even $10 is a lot of money to most people in Congo. So it was just strange. So, after having stayed overnight on the boat, having had to stay in a hotel while waiting for the boat to leave before that, then we were on board for 20 minutes, and then again 9 hours stop.
Crazy.
And so we were told it would take 2 days. It ended up taking 5 or 6 days in the end.
Yeah.
And
note to self when traveling in
note
Congo.
to self, indeed. And we almost had no food because we were unable to get any food. I got some sardines on canned sardines, but of course Jackie doesn't eat that. So we had some bread and some cheese for her, but we ran out because we were planning on 2 days, not 5.
Right.
And on board the boat, they were cooking. There were three ladies. They were cooking. They were hired by the shipping company to provide food to whoever wanted. We had to pay for it, but they didn't cook vegetarian food. So we managed to get some pineapples from small boats passing by that we handed them some notes, and they threw us a pineapple and so on. So but she was almost dying after this. It wasn't that bad, but she was so her energy levels were very, very low.
Yeah.
So
that is hardcore.
It is. It certainly is. But with regards to climate change, we visited a farmer in the rainforest. And ask him. And he's talking and he's saying, what's happened the last few years? I ask, and he said, no, I used to get about 10 sacks of these sorts of beans every season. Now I only get 4. And the same is with this other produce. I can't remember the name of it, but some sort of vegetable. And I said, so why do you think this is? Why do you think the climate has changed? Because it's less, it's too much water, it's too little water, it's too dry. And he said, I have no idea. But maybe you're coming from abroad, maybe so what has caused this? And then I'm saying, okay, what should I say? Should I tell him what most scientists in the Western world say? It's about climate change. It's because of pollution. We're burning too much fossil fuels and all the rest of it. Or suddenly I could, he could become mad at me for being a representative of the Western world. You caused this. So it's sort of, so I was kind of put on the spot by this guy, and I tried to answer, without going in too much detail. That is, there's a lot of pollution from cities and whatnot in other countries, and I think that might have contributed. So, but it was wild, I didn't see that coming. I'm trying to get his take on this, and he just returns the question.
Wow.
So,
that's interesting. Yeah, sometimes you're in that position as a traveler where you're just sort of like a mini ambassador, either for your country or for, in this case, an entire global problem.
Yeah.
That's how you felt anyway, that it was like, okay, whatever answer I give here, this is like the...
Yeah, you couldn't really win, really. So and traveling out there, we got on some motorbikes and traveling to the farmer in the middle of the forest on really shady roads. So we had to drive really slow on the motorbikes, and there was so much dust on them. So I looked like a miner afterwards. I was covered in dust in my face, but it was flooded because it was, as I said, it was too much rain in the Congo, and the Congo River had been flooded for almost a year. So the roads in several places, I think 4 places, we had to get into boats, going on the road, so to cover a distance of between 1 and 3 kilometers to get us and the motorbikes across without, screwing up the engines of the and without getting absolutely wet. And in order to do this, obviously, we had to pay a little bit of money to whoever was ferrying us across. On each side of the flooded sections of the road, people were selling food and drinks and all the rest of it. So it's sort of they're, contributing to the local economies, but it's also slowing down everything. The farmer, he's going to send his produce to the town, to Mbandaka. That would take much, much longer. It would cost more money because he had to transport it by boat, across to follow the road. So it was really devastating. And the farmers said, we've had so much rain, and it's been awful for way too long now, and we can't grow anything because it just washes away. The fertilizer we use, which is primarily from livestock, their manure, it just rains away, and there's no effect out of it. And then when it stops raining, it becomes so warm and so dry that we can't plant anything then either. So it was a no-win situation, and one of the contributing factors to his very much reduced crop. You see a lot of stuff, and it's really eye-opening, and at the same time it's really sad. And I really think it's important to more people to see this instead of only reading what we see in the news, only reading these news reports or reports from scientists and how bad it is and how many degrees it's going to go up or down and how many glaciers are going to actually disappear. But instead of looking at what does that mean to Jim and Joanne and whatever they're called and wherever they live. But it actually means something to a lot of people, and it affects their livelihoods. Whereas we in the Western world, maybe we have to pay a little bit more for eggs or for beef or for food, but we're still getting by. It's not affecting us directly, at least not yet. But if we're with nature, it's going to come back and bite us at some point in time. In the Western world, it's going to take longer than what we see in a lot of developing countries where people actually are depending directly on nature.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing these stories today and giving us a chance to be in their shoes. This is what it's about, right? This is why you wrote the book, is to share these stories so we could understand how it's directly affecting people out there. And I'm sure seeing that, witnessing it on the ground, it was a difficult journey in many ways, in a different way than some of the other journeys you've taken.
I would recommend many more people to travel outside their comfort zone or outside the Western bubble, and actually, going to some of these places. It might not, be the holiday you fancy with cocktails on the beach and so on, but maybe combine it so you can actually go and see something and understand a lot that you would otherwise not see.
Yeah, and
then relax on the beach a few days later, maybe.
That's a great call to action, I think, to wrap this one up, man. I so appreciate you, man. I appreciate your friendship.
Oh,
also appreciate your time today. When this book comes out in English, I think we should repost this so people can hear, and then they have a chance to pick up the book in English when it
Well, get in touch if you're a publisher and would like to put it out. It's called Mellom linjene, which means between the lines in English.
Cool. You ready for some box tacos?
Oh, absolutely.
One last thing. I should ask you this before I let you go, because you guys just went to Syria pretty recently. And, we could do a whole other podcast on this country, but this was a good example of a country that you could now visit. Is much easier to visit. And I'm just wondering, for anybody out there that's interested in going to some of these off the beaten path places that you recommend, talk about, and suggest, and have been to. Are there one or two or three other places that you would say, actually, like this has been difficult, but now's a good time?
Well, Syria, that was Jackie. She's an expert on visas and so on, and on pretty much everything travel-related. But she kind of sniffed out that after Assad, the dictator of Syria, he fell, there's so many Syrians want to come back to the country. Over 1 million has returned to the country from abroad, because they obviously want to go back to their own country and get back to their normal lives. And there are just too many people coming. So they said, okay, let's open the borders, open to everyone, which includes foreigners. So suddenly there were no visa requirements anymore, and anyone could go in and stay for as long as they wanted without paying anything. So we sort of, wow, okay, let's take advantage. And especially Americans, for quite some time, you have not been able to go to Syria without a guide. The last 7 or 8 years, no one has actually been allowed to travel without a guide, regardless of citizenship. So this was suddenly from needing a guide and needing a visa to being able to travel alone and not needing a visa. That was a big advantage. So we took advantage of that. We were there 10 or 11 days. Traveled in from Lebanon, flew into Beirut and took buses across to Damascus, and then we traveled all over Syria, really, to Palmyra, the ancient city in the desert, truly amazing, to Homs, to Hama, to Aleppo, and various other places, Idlib. It is a fantastic country. A lot of places and buildings have been bombed, but people are so optimistic now about the new government, and cautiously optimistic because they don't know how that's going to turn out, but they are hoping for the best and wanting to support the new government and get Syria back into the world as it really should. It's one of the most, hospitality in Syria is second to none. It's amazing. The food there is incredible, costs almost nothing compared to what we pay in the West. And you have beaches on the Mediterranean. You have ancient cities like Palmyra. Damascus is a fantastic town with old markets and citadels and whatnot. It is a fantastic country. But if you never traveled abroad before, maybe you shouldn't start with Syria. It's it can be a bit overwhelming, and there are a lot of armed guards, let's say, and military people in the streets carrying machine guns and all the rest of it. So sometimes at night you hear some gunshots fired here and there. But nothing that you Americans are not used to, I would say.
We can't end on that note.
No.
Maybe before we let you go and have these fancy tacos, you can leave us with your favorite quote right now.
My favorite quote. I don't know. That's not fair. You have to prepare. You have to ask me to prepare for this. I typically like to say easy is boring. Instead of everything being easy and convenient all the time. Of course, it's nice that things are convenient, but not all the time. Try to do something else. Challenge yourself and do something else, or something that you would not normally do. And it can be, if you always stay in all-inclusive hotels, we'll try to go to a not all-inclusive hotel and actually explore the neighborhoods or the areas you're in. If you only eat at chain food restaurants, well, eat at a local one. First of all, you will support the local economy. You'll get a totally different atmosphere and get a very different experience. So it can be about the little things. If you only travel to the Bahamas or only the Caribbean on holiday, well, travel elsewhere. Maybe South America. Maybe one of the coasts of Canada. Go somewhere different. Yeah. So easy is boring, and take that as a kick in the back, or a kick in the ass to do something more exciting.
I love it. At Garfors on Instagram, Garfors, and of course you got your website and everything, which we'll link up to. Check them out. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Brilliant.
There you have it. I want to thank Gunnar for stopping by and recording this episode for you. Like I said, his book isn't even available in English, so he doesn't really have that to promote. He just wanted to come on and talk travel, which is what we love to do. And I appreciate his time for that. And hopefully, if anybody's listening and can help him get this book published in English, feel free to get in touch with him over on his website, garfors.com. Okay, before I let you go, a couple things. A shout out to a listener in this community who was listening to a podcast recently where my wife talked about wanting to visit the San Francisco area. And this is from Maria, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who wrote, I live in San Rafael, about 15 minutes from the Golden Gate Bridge. When your wife visits, we'd love to connect if she wants any local tips, day trips to Marin or Sonoma, drive down the coast to Big Sur, and so on. Love your podcast. Wishing you both a wonderful year of travel and family ahead. Thank you so much. And that just reminded me to share with you how truly special this community is, this listening community is the thing that's kept me going. This is a community-powered show. Getting emails like this from you all out there, just, checking in, offering up stuff like this to show me around if I'm in town, or just say hi and share your story, all of that. That is the thing that has kept me going for this long. And I invite you to get in touch if you ever come through Oslo, Norway, where I'm based, or just get in touch anytime. If you have guest recommendations, you want to just share a story that might help the community, whatever. I love to share these shout outs and I'd love to share more of them. So please just reach out and get in touch. Thank you so much for being a part of this listening community. Got a lot of podcasts out there, I know now, a lot more than when I started, and yet you choose to be here and hang with us. So I just really want to honor you and appreciate you for that. Thank you. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed." Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.